Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today we have another special guest, Brother Sam from the United Kingdom, a recent convert to Ahmadiyya. Assalamu Alaikum, Brother Sam. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam, brother. Alhamdulillah. I'm very well, thank you.
So let's get right into it. So our first question is, what is your name and background?
My full name is Sumsam Gharib Nawaz Ali, born in Pakistan, but my mother is from Iranian origin, and my father was born in India prior to separation. And my father, being a barrister, got educated in London, in England, did his LLB, then went back to do his advocacy in Pakistan. My mother, originally, her parents emigrated from Iran and went to Pakistan. That's the background from them. I was born in Lahore and came here in 1965 with my brother, mother and father, and that's the basic background. Born of Sunni background in terms of religion growing up, and I believe Sunni Hanafi, but I have to admit I was never fully into Islam growing up. Perhaps it's because the schooling I had, I was sent to boarding school or private schools in England, so that resulted in me being slightly separated from the spiritual side of things. I don't know whether one can understand that, but that's there's less of an influence spiritually at schools. Very few Muslims at schools as well. Especially when I was growing up, there were perhaps 4 Asians in the whole school. So that limited what you could do, how you could be educated and enlightened. I was born a Muslim, but if you're not practicing enough, you lose your way slightly. So, in terms of that, that's where I am. What else can I say? I'm fortunate that when I got married in 1989, that's when religion strengthened in me. My wife, she's from her mother's side, has always been, they've been quite particular. They were originally from Jalalpur in Pakistan and from a very cultural based way of life. While conversely myself, I had been brought up less culturally. Pakistan culture doesn't always endear me to the people. Religion, I've always actually discussed it before becoming an Ahmadi, that there's too much of an integration in people's mind between Islam and culture. While it has to be acknowledged that Islam is for all people, for mankind. It's not for particular countries, particular traditions. It's a way of life. So Ahmadiyyat has always been comfortable with me. In terms of, this is prior to converting. I was never really, we were always told as young children, don't become Qadianis, they're wrong, they're believers. As the promised Messiah is completely wrong, he was this, he was that. And the insults people used to portray the promised Messiah very offensive, especially when I look back on what was said, what I heard, highly offensive. So I'm glad where I am, brother.
Alhamdulillah. So would you classify your background as an anti-Ahmadi as well, or no?
With myself, I would say we were educated not to entertain anything to do with Ahmadiyyat. not even meeting Ahmadis.
Wow.
And it's a sad state of affairs. We were, as you perhaps may have experienced with other people who may have converted, that you were never told these are the reasons why people should do these things. We were never given answers. We were in fact told, don't answer, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Do as I say. And as I've grown up, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm 60 years old, so to change one's opinion, personally for myself, wasn't difficult. For my wife, very much so. She'd been brought up, as you say, a Sunni Hanafi. Do as I do as I say, sorry. And being the youngest in her family, it became very difficult for her to say anything other than G, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm blessed with having my eldest daughter who brought us to Ahmadiyya, in fact. She was doing her A-levels at school where she met people unbeknown to her, Ahmadis. And in the sixth form, it's a very much, I don't know whether it's like, I believe, is it Canada or wherever you're from?
In Canada, it's different. It works differently.
It's mixed in the sixth
Yeah.
form, in the higher levels.
Okay.
And that's where my daughter, who'd always been quite, not just pious, she'd been studious. She likes knowledge. And I remember even when she was 3 years old or 4 years old, she had a desire to even fast then.
Wow.
But as a kid, what we did and what she did is that you give them a couple of hours here and there, and they learn to appreciate. Not necessarily to understand, to see parents doing it, parents not eating. So it's always been a good influence, and she's been highly influential as she's got older with us. Coming back to my story, when she was at sixth form, sir, she met these boys, unbeknown to her, being Ahmadi boys, and they would discuss Islam. They would give a particular understanding of what the boys knew, and then she would actually go home and to see whether she could form a rebuttal against what the boys would say. And lo and behold, what happened? She couldn't rebut any of their statements about the interpretation as the Ahmadiyya Jamaat saw it as. So that had a great influence on her in terms of what are we doing wrong, or I need to study more. And that's what she did. She initially started, from what she's told us, she started reading up about Ahmadiyya secretly, without unbeknown to us as parents, to see what she could learn. When she did start to mention it to my wife was not too pleased, to say the least. To say, what the hell are you doing? Because there was, in retrospect, the influence of family was affecting our open-mindedness on the whole subject.
Yeah.
So she carried on studying secretly. Then eventually she started putting on MTA, beloved MTA. It's which is, for people who don't know, it is a Muslim television Ahmadiyya. It is a fantastic medium to have for us. Coming back, she started to listen to MTA more, gathering more information, and then, as a father with the girls, we're usually told after, us men were a side discussion from their main discussions. But she confessed to her mother that I'm interested in Ahmadiyya. I want to research it more. I want to potentially convert. My wife, this can't happen. My daughter even planned to leave home because her beliefs were strong by then.
Wow, yeah.
So my daughter is quite a tenacious, brave girl as well. Well, alhamdulillah, we've been blessed with a girl who's got so much knowledge. And she thrives on knowledge, which is fantastic. So that's been a blessing for us. From there, what actually happened, I think, was in 2013. My wife was invited initially by a family whose son was actually in the Jamia in England studying to become a murabbi, to become a priest, called Sayyid Adil Amin. So his family invited my wife and the kids to Jalsa Salana in 2013. I did not go. I don't think I remember going, but they came back and they in fact did their bayat at Jalsa Salana.
Wow.
And that's when the ball, started rolling.
So the whole family accepted
The whole
your
family,
wife?
but I hadn't
Yeah.
at that time. Yeah, I was very unsure. I think also a lack of knowledge myself resulted in me not taking that step. So they came back from Jalsa Salana 2013 having taken bite, and that's when we saw the organizational structure of Ahmadiyya coming into effect, where we got the president of our local Jamaat come, forms were signed, acknowledgements and declarations were made for them to move their conversion forward, or reversion, should I say, forward. And that's when, at that time, it's quite funny that this is when my wife and my daughter started doing tabligh on me. Very subtly, like it'd invariably be something like 10:30 at night. On our preparing mentally to go to bed, my wife and my daughter would trap me in the kitchen and discuss, read this, read that, and give some questions to me which I couldn't fully answer at that time because I didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And this carried on every day. Sometimes I'd walk off, as they say in England, cheesed off, thinking, wow, you're hassling me. I'm meant to be getting ready for work and you're doing this, you're doing that. The second phase of the tabligh was going to bed and my wife putting MTA on. It was very good. And what would be put on? It would be, I think, question and answer sessions with the beloved Khalifa Rabi. May Allah grant him a high place in heaven. He was fundamental in me converting. Other than the influence of my daughter, when I listened to the answers and the knowledge Khalifa Rabi had, it was immense. There was logic with everything. There was, especially when it comes to the death of Hazrat Isa. We had been brought up to believe that Hazrat Isa, as you know, would come down from the heavens, I believe with two angels, to a minaret east of Damascus, wherever. And it's turned out that's not quite correct. The Bible even suggests that the Bible actually suggests, I believe, that when they took Hazrat Isa off the cross, he was still bleeding, he was still alive. There's further proof as we find out about the lost tribes of Israel, and if you're interested in genetics, you will find a trail going across from the Middle East, as we know now, towards Syria, ending up in Afghanistan. With genealogy tests, there is Jewish blood there. So it's further strengthening what we've been told and what is actually the truth are two different things. Factual evidence compared to suppositions.
Yeah.
But that was fundamental to us. That the interpretation had been given that Hazrat was the last prophet, and then we had this issue of how can you then suggest that Hazrat Isa will come down from the heavens and be, therefore, Hazrat cannot be the last prophet if you're saying Hazrat Isa is coming down. So there was big conflict in that. But it was clarified by Khalifa Rabi. And may Allah bless him. Just by watching him, one could just fell in love with him. The warmth the man showed, the knowledge he showed, that resulted in July 2016 that my wife and my children had what they call a Mullah Card with Zur. And it's at that time, unbeknown to them, I hadn't told my wife and kids as such that it was my intention to take Bayt. So when we actually had that meeting with Hazur, they knew, I, oddly enough, I automatically, when I entered his office, I went to kiss his hand, where the rings are. And then we sat down, and he said the most pleasing thing, even though he knew by then I wasn't an Ahmadi, he said to me, "You look like an Ahmadi." That was quite pleasing, very pleasing. Then he said, "What you want to do?" And I said to him, "May I please take Bayt under your hand?" And he said, "Don't you want to do it at the Jalsa or whatever?" I said, then I nearly slipped out. We say brother quite often. Yeah. I said, brother, no, Hazur. That's a slip of the tongue. So Hazur offered us the time. He got one of the Murabis to run out and get some forms, and we did our Bayt there. That was a wonderful experience. Just having, that was fantastic. Just, having our hand there and seeing he's got such beautiful hands. I have to say, just beautiful hands. So we took Bayt there, and it just gives you, it lifts you from inside. It was a fantastic experience. And then you also, when I leave the office, the happiness you see in others that you've taken that step forward. I also do remember smelling my hand, and it smelled of Hazur, and I didn't want to shake anybody's hand or touch anybody because I wanted to keep that smell on me. So that's where my initial story of Ahmadiyya started up from 2016 onwards. With regards to family life after converting, my journey has been quite less conflicting compared to my wife's. My mother, she's 89. She is living in London. She hasn't been too bad. She still treats me as a son. She hasn't ostracized me and, I never want to see you again. But my wife, on the other hand, has had quite a tough time herself. Her family are from the north part of England, in Halifax, West Yorkshire. And when my wife said to her family that it is my intention to convert, her mother said to her quite frankly, in fact, through a messenger, my wife's, one of her brothers, saying that, you convert, I'm going to remove you from the inheritance. My wife said, she's a principal lady, she said, you keep your inheritance, But since then, sadly, there's been such little communication from my mother-in-law and from my wife's siblings. It's kind of gone downhill since, especially from 2016 onwards. My mother-in-law, in fact, used to speak to me saying, keep a watch on my daughter that she doesn't study Ahmadiyya too much. But I would say, yes, I'll keep an eye on her. But at the same time, I was being educated by Ahmadiyya as well. So she was not too happy that I had not followed her wish to spy on my wife. But so, brother, now we are in such a good place in terms of Islam. We are comfortable with the way we've learned things. Oh, there's one thing, brother, I did forget to say. Maybe something can be arranged that before joining Ahmadiyya, there's one thing I did always like, and that is the organizational structure of Ahmadiyya. There is a structure, and I like structures. I'm in IT, so we like organization, we like flows, methods, protocols, and so forth. So I was very comfortable with that. And also in terms of donating and giving money for causes, knowing that we're all volunteering for the one cause, for the true Islam, the journey to true Islam, that we're doing something so good. We're volunteering ourselves, and therefore any donations that we give are 100% input into Ahmadiyya and the causes, whether it be for creation of mosques, for water in Africa or wherever, feeding the poor, social support for the elderly, for the infirm. It's all, there's 100% input. It's not like other charities whereby they deduct wages for everybody who works for the charity. I understand, obviously, there are people in Ahmadiyya who have jobs, but that is because they're committed for life to what they do. And it's not just that they work Monday to Friday and Saturday, Sunday, they do what they want. The people actually get paid by the Jamaat. It's 24/7, every day of the year, etc., etc. So these people have to be, alhamdulillah, so admired for the sacrifice they're giving in their life. They are giving their lives to Ahmadiyya. As I said, the true Islam. It is, after a few years now from 2016, well, not 4 years nearly, that Ahmadiyya is only getting stronger and stronger. If I can, in terms of strength, when we had this man called Baghdadi in Syria, Iraq, claiming that he was basically the Mahdi and this was the Islamic State. It was a false claim, and Allah didn't allow his claim to succeed. Whilst through the promised Messiah, as an analogy, has flourished. Over 100 years it's flourished. Allah is allowing Ahmadiyya to succeed. We have, I believe, a very high conversion rate of people coming to Ahmadiyya because they're seeing words that are being fulfilled with the Quran through through Huzur. God is guiding him in delivering the right words to the Ahmadiyya congregation. And may he be blessed for that. What more can I say? We are, as a family, very, very happy to be in Ahmadiyya. We've got so many brothers and sisters that we can refer to for support, for love, affection, counseling, all these areas. It's fantastic. And I just, urge all those non-believers of Islam or anti-Ahmadis to really consider where they are going in their journey their journey is one of, as I feel, one of failure. They really haven't appreciated what Islam is. They haven't appreciated the tarbiyat required, the actions you require to attain a higher level of Islam within one's, the spiritual wealth. Forget the materialistic wealth. The spiritual wealth is ultimately the most important thing that we have to go for. And that was how God will judge us, I feel. What else can I say?
So another question that was really inspiring, mashallah. Another question I wanted to ask was that how has Ahmadiyya changed your life? Like, you've been Ahmadi for a few years now. Compared to the past, how has it changed your life in a positive way till today?
I think in terms of, I've got a clearer conscience where I'm going. That's as an individual. I'm learning more all the time about Islam. It's, well, in short, it's made me a more compassionate person, a more understanding person, a person who's gained more patience, and a more helpful person. It's all in there, and Allah has made me a better person for it. We should be blessed with whatever we get in life. But I can clearly say that Allah has, with the support of Ahmadiyya, put me in a better place than where I was. We were lost, but we have found. So I'm glad. And may Ahmadiyya succeed till the end of days.
Ameen. Another question was the importance of Khilafat and what Khilafat means to you. Like, compared to the other Muslim groups, we see so much division. So what do you see in Khilafat, the message maybe you want to give to the other groups of Islam in regards to Khilafat?
If I can go back to the original, before becoming an Ahmadi, we had not been educated on Khilafat. We knew that after Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam there were Khalifas, but in this modern day and age, everything seems to be so diverse. Different knowledge comes from different people. No sense of consolidation of knowledge or the same interpretation going forward. So Khilafat has been very important to us. It gives us our spiritual guidance, and it's fundamental. I mean, it's actually written in the books. We should have Khilafat, and people who don't wish to adopt Khilafat, I think it could be geopolitical reasons, especially in the Middle East, between the Saudis, the Iranians, the Shia elements, that they don't want. Well, they can't agree on Khilafat anyway. The Shias have had their 12 Imams. The Wahhabis are doing their interpretation of things. We shall come back to in just a moment. I'll come back to now, in fact, that when we were grown up, that we were told that this is the written word, you should do as it says. Literally, as a literal translation of what is being said. Only as I've grown up now that we find out that many things are said in a metaphorical way that we were never told about. So that has been a very important point. A case in point may be, you can even with relation to the Bible, that there's statements about Hazrat Isa, making the blind people see. That can be interpreted also to mean that because they were so ignorant or blinkered vision, that by educating them, he enlightened them and illuminated the world around them so they could see. So see, this is how we as Sunni Hanafis, we had not been told these things. Whilst now as an Ahmadi, we're being, the light bulb is being switched on and we can see more. And
MashaAllah.
that's where Khilafat is so important. We're given daily reminders of how important it is. And it must be such a huge responsibility on Huzur, our current Khalifa, of how he manages with all the weight on his shoulders, how he can have such clarity in what he's saying about where we need to go as Ahmadis. I remember just this week we had the khutbah on Eid. Eid Mubarak, by the way, brother. I'd never got to say
Yeah.
that. He talks about the true Eid and the interpretation of the true Eid. It's fantastic. We hadn't looked at it that way, that when you analyze the way we are, the way we should be, it is not always for material, it's not for material wealth. It's to please Allah. And if I can please Allah in my little way, I'm happy. And if he's happy with me, even better. But Khilafat, without Khilafat, we've got no guidance. We've got no way forward. If you go to all the mosques, perhaps in Canada, America, that other than the Ahmadi mosques, that they've got their own imams teaching their own little things, their own interpretations, and it can vary from country to country, especially from the Far East to the Middle East to the Far West. So Khilafat is superb. It's what we need, and it's what is written, is required. But as you know, there's so much anti-Ahmadiyyat, especially from where I'm from, Pakistan. It is, I think, also to do with the lack of education in the country. If you don't educate people, you can move them in a mob way, the mob rule way, and it's no good, living in fear of one's life because one has decided to choose a different approach to Islam than what they do over there. So Khilafat is so strong, so needed, especially in places like Pakistan. But Allah knows best on these matters, which way that country is going to go.
Yeah. So, brother, another question was like in regards to Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, may Allah be pleased with him, have mercy on him. What topics touched you most in terms of the differences with Ahmadis and your beliefs before Ahmadiyyat? Like, which topics touched you most and convinced you that Ahmadiyyat is the true Islam?
Well, I would say virtually everything he talked about touched me. From the knowledge he described with Hazrat Maryam when she was brought food by the Archangel Gabriel to her, and when she was even asked by Zachariah that where is this food coming from, and she said from God through the angel. And then Khalifa Rabi talked about what is termed in Christianity and so forth, the Immaculate Conception, how that was derived at. That is, is in fact, these things can happen through God, and he did that. God he did something unusual, but he allowed that to happen. Whilst in Christianity and other religions, they have this Son of God approach, this triumvirate of God the Father, God the Son, God. It cannot be so. No. God does not change the laws of nature. all prophets, all people die, and then we will be judged. He did not break the law. He did not break the law for Hazrat Musa, who was a lawmaker. He will do it for the promised Messiah. May God, also reserve a place in heaven for him, a higher place, that he passed away as well after devoting his whole life to Islam and the way forward to the true Islam. All people die. He does not change the laws of nature. One can go back to when people say that Allah took Hazrat Salam to, I think, Jerusalem, then took him up to heaven. It's a metaphorical approach to it, that he never actually physically went, which many Sunni Muslims believe, but it was done. I mean, God the Almighty can do many things, but he allowed him to see things that we have not seen. So, we're blessed. I'm so blessed. My family is so blessed in being Ahmadis. And we now have a granddaughter, so we know our progenies are going to be little Ahmadis as well.
Wow, alhamdulillah. So how many people overall converted from your family? And
from here, it's my wife, myself, and 4 kids. And now a granddaughter. Obviously, she doesn't know that yet. She's only 3. But yeah, it was. But my daughter, I have to say, has been influential in supporting people who wanted to go into becoming from Sunnis, becoming Ahmadis. She's provided support to other people in the community where they may have people interested in Islam. And that's where my daughter's knowledge and the mastery of the English language has helped her educate others. My way of educating, because I haven't got the actual so much knowledge of my daughter on this, my way has been of anecdotal advice, tarbiyat, talking to people, talking about subtle interpretation of the Quran they should be aware of, which they were not. Khatm al-Nabiyyin, for example. So it's all, it's all been good. We hoped we can in future convert more people to Ahmadiyya, because it is the right way. It is the most compassionate way, the true way, it is the way. And this is the way we should go forward.
MashaAllah. Okay, so before we conclude, just if you can maybe give a message to those non-Ahmadi Muslims living in Pakistan or in other countries where they hear a lot of false allegations against Jamaat. So how they should do their research and maybe some stuff they should watch and how they can learn about the truth of Ahmadiyya. Any guidelines for them?
Yeah. With regards to, brothers and sisters in Pakistan, one thing I would say is be very careful when you study. They are, God does tell us that we should try to preserve our life as well. First of all, be very careful how you study, but when you do study, do it deeply, and most importantly with sincerity and with an open mind. We had an open mind. I had an open mind once. My mind has now been opened. My eyes have been opened. Brothers and sisters of Pakistan, you need to do exactly the same. Do not listen to the priests. The priests are people who are not necessarily scholars, They may recite beautifully, but they do not necessarily have the knowledge to fulfill the questions that you may ask them. So I would just once more be very careful. Learn that Khalifa is the way forward. Ahmadiyya is the way forward. Islam does not teach us to be intolerant to others of all books, of all religions. We have to respect people's lives. We have to become one family. And the only way forward is to become one family in Ahmadiyya, because we will always be able to support each other. I can't say more, just that you have to love each other. You've got to trust each other. Trust is fundamental. And the people you may, I may say this in a cynical way, the people you cannot always trust are the mullahs in Pakistan, who are so, it seems that they're more into their political interests than the interests of the actual Muslims they are, who are in their congregations. So brothers and sisters, please educate yourself about Ahmadiyya. Do not go to these cult sites which just criticize Ahmadiyya as if there's nothing good with them. Well, they should perhaps look in the mirror, and they perhaps will not see honorable actions compared to where we do coming from Ahmadiyya.
Perfect. Jazakallah, brother. I really enjoyed that. So in the end, we pray that Allah continues to guide more people to the true Islam, Ahmadiyyat. And if there are any other converts who would like to share their stories, they can comment below and get in touch with me. And inshallah, we hope to do more stories like this, like we did with Brother Sam today. And in the end, once again, we pray for the Muslim Ummah that they can realize the truth. Jazakallah, Brother Sam, for all your time.
Jazakallah as well, brother. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Assalamu Alaikum.
If you have not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you can get notifications for every new video. Also make sure to like and comment on the video and follow on Twitter and Instagram.
سفينا صل على محمد